amazing and diverse panel, first and foremost, but also a panel that is so unique in just what they brought to the application journey, which is why they are here in our discussion called Journey to College, right? Just before we started the discussion, I was talking to the panelists about how competitive this last 2 years have actually been, specifically for programs that are offered within the engineering and the management realm. Business schools and engineering schools have seen unprecedented number of applications. And the most surprising thing that I've noticed is that more and more people with work experience are actually now willing to take the time away from work, take a sabbatical, and saying, well, you know what, I think I'm going to invest in a master's degree at this point. And they're looking at it as a really sound ROI. They're not looking at it as an opportunity cost. And that was really, really stark in the last 2 years. I noticed a lot more applicants with 3 years, 5 years, 7 years work experience approaching the team at the Red Pen and asking not for an MBA, but for a master's degree. And on that note, Neil, Shreyas, Saloni, thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate the time and effort that you're taking to be with us. We're going to start with an icebreaker of a question, all right? It's the first question that I want to ask you is that if you could finish this sentence for me. Shreyas, we'll start with you. The most stressful aspect of the process for me was?
I think time management.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I think since I've been working full time as well, and the application process, I was applying to like 8 to 9 universities, and each of them had their own requirements. And I had like things to take care at home as well. So I had like my time was split across, and that was my challenging part.
Got it. Neil, how about you? What was the most challenging part for you? Neil, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. So I think the most challenging part was keeping up with the deadlines and keeping up with all the due dates that I had, because I'm super bad of keeping track of multiple things at the same time, and usually the person who gets to things last minute. So I think that was one of the most challenging parts.
For you, all right. Saloni, same question for you. What was the most stressful aspect of the process?
I think the essays and building the SOP was quite a challenging part of the application process, majorly because you have to be really authentic in your essays, and you have to really like connect with the person who is assessing your essays. So that was one of the most challenging parts, where I felt like I really had to put my 100% and curate it in a way that is going to really like outshine myself.
Got it. Okay, super. And I'm going to actually get you guys to talk a little bit more about this in details. The reason why everybody's here today is because, at the Red Pen, our biggest ethos is the most objective, the most updated, and the most unbiased information to applicants who are truly figuring out whether a master's from an international university is their goal for their professional journey or for their personal growth as the next step. So having a panel with students who are applicants and current upcoming students talking about that, the fact that the journey was authentic and the fact that they were encouraged to manage their time well and be multitasking, but at the same time be efficient in what they were submitting to universities. That's a very important part of what we want to take forward and empower future applicants with as a conversation, right? And that's what we do at the Red Pen, and that's what the three of you are going to do today with the Red Pen. Some elements that we're going to talk about today for all the attendees who are just logging in. Here are some of the elements that we're going to talk about, we're going to touch upon. And at the end of this, we are going to have a Q&A session. So if you have questions for the panel, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A box. You can wait till the end, or you can put it right away, and you can direct it to a specific panelist as well, whether it's Shreyas or Saloni or Neil. And then I will get them to answer those questions for you. Hopefully we will have enough time for Q&A, so for all the Q&A, but we'll definitely do a Q&A section at the end. All right. When applicants come to us first, right? And then the most important thing that they mention is that, I'm kind of struggling with which exact program is a fit for what I wish to study, right? That's a conversation that I have with them very, very often. Some of them are looking at generalized masters, but they're looking at a generalized master's in the same field that they've already got an undergrad in. You know, some are looking at a specialization because they think it's the right skill set to develop because of the recruitment process after graduate school. But that's not always the right fit for who they are and what their story is. Saloni, I'm going to give this question to you. You know, you did take some time zeroing in on your course. There was a lot of back and forth that you and I did on what you need to study. And there was a lot of exploration that we did together. Whereas Neil, I remember when we started working together, you were very clear from the beginning what you wanted to study. You know, after that whole conversation we had and everything, there was no doubt in your mind that this is it for me. So I'm going to start this question to both of you. Saloni, you first. What and how did you pick your area of interest? And then Neil, for you.
So to begin with, I was confused between MS in finance and MS in entrepreneurship. And I basically had this confusion because I did my bachelor's, I did my BBA majoring in finance. So I thought that I should build upon that and pursue my master's in finance. But on the other hand, after I finished my bachelor's, I also began my own venture, which is why I also considered doing an MS in entrepreneurship. So this was a confusion, and how I zeroed in on master's in entrepreneurship was because I felt like I needed a more holistic learning. I wanted to be part of an environment where I could meet like-minded people, where I could be a part of a community where the people I am surrounded with are all budding entrepreneurs, where I can network in a way that will benefit my venture and also help me in scaling my venture. So this is how I was inclined towards pursuing a master's in entrepreneurship. And also why I felt like a master's in finance wouldn't help me as much was because master's in finance is majorly very quant focused, and it is a course that helps you gain a lot of hard skills. So I felt like that was a very narrow or a niche segment which wouldn't really help me, or which I wouldn't really be able to apply in my venture. I needed something which was more broad, where I could acquire management skills, leadership skills, and a lot of other segments as well.
Right. And yeah, and I think that conviction that, you know, once we finished the whole exploration phase together, and the conviction that you came back with saying, you know, that it's very multidisciplinary if I look at entrepreneurship and innovation. And what my takeaway will therefore be very varied. And I like that. And that conviction that came after that was good, right?
It has a bit of finance as well. It has a bit of accounting. It has a bit of everything. So I wanted that mix. I wanted something that was more holistic and wholesome.
Right. And Neil, how about you? What made you so clear-headed about the fact that you wanted to study what you wanted to study? Tell us what you're going to study at Cambridge.
Okay, so to start with, I'll be studying the MPhil in finance and economics, but before that, I'll be doing the advanced diploma in economics at Cambridge. It's a 2-year program, starting with the advanced diploma, then moving on to the MPhil in finance and economics. And to be very honest, yes, I was certain at one point what I wanted to do, but I still was confused before I came to Red Pen. So for a year and a half, I was exploring ideas of studying policy, of studying developmental economics, of studying labor economics, and all sorts of different things that were there. But it all boiled down to what did I enjoy studying the most. I think I enjoyed studying finance the most. I enjoyed reading up upon financial crises the most. And I enjoyed understanding the economics behind finance the most. With that being said, it was a no-brainer that if I am going to be studying a really academically challenging course, I have to take up a program that I will enjoy doing. And that being said, I picked finance and economics. And at the same time, in my future, to be very honest, I'm not sure what I'm really going to get into. And at the moment, I'm leaning towards policy and politics in the later future, or even in the near future. But that didn't really influence my choice of studying a particular program at university, because I, as a person, enjoy studying and enjoy academics. So I just wanted to do something where I would have fun.
Yeah. And I do remember that, Neil, that, you know, when I was going with through your essays for the edits and the reviews, I remember there being this this passion for the theories in finance and in economics, right? Where you were rattling off theorists and thought leaders and economists, and we kept giving you feedback saying, okay, there are too many. They will not fit in your word count. So cut down, at least just use one theory, or you talk about 2 books you've read. You can't keep. So I think your entire clear-headedness, according to me, does come from that thirst to understand this subject much deeper, right? Whether you apply it in your political and your policy future or not, professional future or not, for you it was just very important to know more about this subject that you're fascinated by, right? Am I right in that?
Absolutely. Yes, you are absolutely right.
Perfect. Shreyas, let's talk about you. Your was studying MEPS at Carnegie Mellon, and of course, introduce MEPS to the audience, let them know what it is. But was that a choice, like a natural progression from your undergraduate degree, or did you explore other subjects and then you kind of figured out that you want to do something more interdisciplinary? Take us through the thought process.
Yeah, so I think what influenced me was the first role I got out of after graduating. I worked for technology consulting at KPMG, and I got exposed to working with clients, and that's something that I liked doing, as I was also learning the product and was trying to make the customers understand as to what are the strengths of the product and how can they use and how it will be benefited. So I like the entire process of that, and I think that's where the shift happened. It was actually a shift from my undergrad degree, because I have done undergrad in computer science, and this interdisciplinary course that is the MEPS at CMU would allow me to take courses from the engineering, business, and design schools at CMU. And I saw that team fit, given that what I like to work at my first job, and I thought MEPS would be the right choice for me. Apart from MEPS, I did look at engineering management programs, but I think MEPS was like my top 3 choices to apply for.
Right. Shreyas, what was your undergraduate degree in?
Computer science degree.
Okay. And which year did you graduate?
In 2018.
2018. So how many years of work ex do you have full time?
So this was close to around 3.5 years of experience. The other option I had down the line, if I'd continued working, would be an MBA, because that would give me like the right number of work ex to get into an international MBA. But since I figured I should take a break to get back to studying, I thought engineering management programs were my best fit.
Got it. Do you think getting into such a prestigious program at Carnegie Mellon, and we were just talking about it before the webinar started, that Carnegie Mellon and University of Pennsylvania are probably the 2 most amazing universities that offer such a niche program. I can't even remember 5, to be honest. It'll be hard for me to find really competitive universities offering such a unique interdisciplinary course of study. So do you think the fact that you had WorkX, which was also somewhere related, because like you just said, you were doing client-facing work, but also the technical side. So do you think that kind of helped you with your admit? What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. I think I got to explore more on the roles I could play at work, because first I was working at KPMG. Next, I went to a health tech company, and working in tech, I think I got a lot of exposure to starting my own projects, and that is something that I spoke about in my essays to CMU, wherein I had the opportunity to build some automation, to explore the side of UI UX. So these are the things that I think I would definitely tell that my work experience helped me pave like a good story to them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because I think if you had applied for a METS degree 1 year after your undergraduation with 1 year work ex, or maybe 1.5 years work ex, you wouldn't have had that leadership element. I took an initiative, and that I think was just made you so well-rounded for a US university, right? That they liked the fact that you had the ability to showcase impact organically. You didn't say, well, I'm aspiring towards this impact. You said, I've kind of started doing that, and that worked in favor.
Yes, definitely.
Neil, let's talk about your admits. Where else did you get admitted besides Cambridge? I know Cambridge was your top choice. I remember that. But where else did you get your admits?
So only Cambridge, to be honest, because I applied to Cambridge, and then while we were in the process of going through my LSC essay, we got an admit from Cambridge. I think it was 13th of January, very early in the process, for me at least. So, and after giving it a good thought and talking to you as well, so because it was my top choice and because I already got an admit from my top choice, we didn't end up applying to any other university. So that was my only application, only admit.
Okay, and what was the Cambridge deadline, if you can just share with the audience?
It was 2nd of December.
Right, and you applied well in time, right? And by the first week of January, you had an admit.
Yes, second week, 13th of January.
Right, and this goes to the point that how whether there are rounds or no round. Like some US universities sometimes have rounds as well for business school, but every time I speak with applicants, especially looking at UK or European universities, they tell me, well, I can apply in Feb and I can apply in March. Well, of course you can, because deadlines are open. But the earlier you get your application in, and it's a really good application, you are creating an opportunity for yourself to, it's the selection of the strongest, right? Because if you have a strong application, you have more seats open at that point, and then you just get picked on top of the bunch, right? And it's like getting picked for the basketball team first, right? Versus just waiting on the sideline, hoping that some team will pick you, A or B. So I think Neil was really, really commendable that you got your applications, and your applications was really, really strong. You hadn't compromised on any component of your application. We'll talk about those in a bit. But the fact that you had your admit so early actually helped you make this decision and then just not have to stress about doing any other applications versus, say, applying a little later when your deadline was a little earlier, but some of them have a Jan 15 deadline. And then applicants are waiting till Jan 10th, 12th to submit their application. And then they're waiting till March, April to even hear back, right? And that causes stress. So then they're like, oh, should I do 5 more safety colleges? Should I do 2 more target colleges? And that sense of overwhelm is something that you completely avoided for yourself, really, right? Saloni, what were your other admits?
So I had an admit from Babson as well for the same course, which was Masters in Entrepreneurial Leadership.
Got it. And what made you pick University of Southern California over Babson?
So as I said, I did my bachelor's I did my BBA in finance, and I did it from SPJN. And my choice of USC majorly stemmed from the fact that it has a more diverse cohort. And it is also a university which has a lot of other disciplines, a lot of other schools, a lot of other courses that are offered. Babson is purely a business school, so I wanted something that was more diverse. Yeah.
Perfect. I remember having this conversation, Saloni, with you about how in India, as a business school, Babson is just more popular than Marshall School of Business. Right. And internationally, Marshall School of Business has its prestige of being like the school for an MBA. But when you look at a master's, the Indian diaspora, they believe in a Babson. So, Saloni and I remember you and I talking a lot about what does it really mean to go to a Marshall School of Business versus a Babson. And I think diversity was the one thing that you definitely were clear about, that, University of Southern California allows me electives from the other disciplines. That opens up options for me versus at Babson, I'm only going to be studying business electives.
Correct.
Right? And networking, of course, right? Marshall School of Business also has tremendous networking opportunities. So that will also be something.
Yeah, for me, networking was key. As an entrepreneur, I feel networking is very, very important. So that was my choice.
Right. Okay, I'm going to ask the three of you one question. You can say yes or no. You can give me a longer answer. I'm going to be really crass about it and say brand. Okay, did the brand name matter? I shouldn't be using the word brand, but Shreyas, did the brand name matter?
Yes.
Okay, so if it was some other course at Carnegie Mellon, it would still be Carnegie Mellon for you?
Yes, but it eventually I think it'll end up do you like doing the course or not? Otherwise, why are you doing it?
Good point. Neil, I know Cambridge was your top choice, but was Cambridge your top choice because it was Cambridge or because of the curriculum?
I mean, I'm going to turn the question around. I mean, there is a reason why the name has a brand. So because of which, like Cambridge, obviously, like Cambridge has this brand because of the things that it offers, and be it the collegiate system, be it the extremely large cohort, be it the historic legacy of Cambridge and the resources available. And it's one of the most well-funded universities in the UK, like Oxford and Cambridge combined. I mean, these all reasons combined make it like the obvious choice for a person who is getting into Cambridge and some other university for the same course, obviously. Now, if it's a specific course, if it's a specific professor or a researcher that you're looking at, then it might change your choice. If you're looking at scholarships, it might change your choice. But given all things equal, Cambridge becomes the obvious choice because of the things that it has to offer. And that is the reason why it has that brand name.
Right. Got it. So you were very clear that I'm getting everything that I want as a future academia, because your purpose of going in also academia. You want to study. Right?
Absolutely, yes.
Got it. Saloni, we just spoke about networking and why that's why University of Southern California was important for you. Let's talk. I want instead for you to answer for me the right time, because again, that was something that we spoke about a lot. Correct. Should I go for 2022? Should I go for 2023? Take us through a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, so we know why there was this confusion in your head, and then how did you resolve that?
So I graduated in 2021, and I took a year after that to work on my own venture, and I launched it back in October 2021. So I've been working on it since then, and the confusion started because I already had a 1-year gap after my undergraduate degree, and I thought I should take more time for myself, work on my venture a little bit more so I can narrow down on the knowledge gaps that I want to work on. So which I felt that would aid me in the process of choosing my course as well, so that I can know that these are the areas which I want to give more focus on, and these are the areas that I want to study more on. So that was one reason why I was confused whether I should apply for 2023 or 2024 intake. And we had a lot of discussion on this as well. And yeah, so my parents wanted me to do it right after my undergrad, but because of COVID and because of multiple other reasons, I started with my own venture and I was working on it. And initially I wasn't even considering on doing my master's, but then after seeing the curriculum and after seeing the courses offered, it really got me intrigued. And I also felt like there are a lot of areas which I need to focus on. So I have launched a fintech company, and I felt like I needed more exposure in the tech background, which was one of the reasons why I chose USC, because it has, and because LA is known for its technology, and California in itself is known for its technology. And USC has amazing courses that are offered in tech. And I felt like the networking that USC could offer me, it would be unmatched and unparalleled. So I finally chose that I will go for the 2022 intake. And yeah, so this is where I am.
Got it. All right. So if I can sum up this section of the conversation, which is about the initial thoughts and the course and the colleges, right? I would say that, aligning your decision with your short-term goals is the first step towards picking a college shortlist, right? It cannot be that, when I go on a ranking site and I say, okay, these are the top 25 programs for entrepreneurship or top 25 for MEPS or something else or for finance, and then that's it. This is where I stop, right? It has to be about first identifying your goals, working a little backward about, what skills do I really need to be able to achieve my goals? And then, okay, which are the programs that give me that, right? Like for Shreyas, it's the interdisciplinary nature of the work that he aspires for. For Neil, it was like, well, I really want to study, and I want to study at the best, with the best, by the best, from the best. So it became that element, right? For Saloni, it was the networking and the ability to be able to really branch out and build soft skills that she can come back and apply to her work, right? So it's a lot about understanding what your goals are and then building your college list from there. All right. So this brings us, okay, before I segue into the next section, please, I encourage the attendees to put in the question in the Q&A box. The chat function is disabled, but you can go ahead and put it in the Q&A box. So I want to talk a little bit about recommendations now. All right. Admission officers, when we meet them, and I mean, initially before COVID, they were coming into our office and we were hosting them and talking to them and holding Q&A sessions, but now we pretty much do it online. they often tell us that when they read recommendations very closely, they are looking for a certain insight. Because remember, in this process, you all didn't submit any certifications. You all didn't submit any documentation outside of your transcripts, right, which were official in nature. So that's the reason why they're looking at your recommendations very closely, right? And since this is, when you're weighing these recommendation letters against your personal statement or your statement of purpose, there has to be a strategy from an application perspective, right? For example, if you're going to your head of the department who has all but met you once in those 3 or 4 years that you're spending at university, and then you ask them and they don't say no because they're head of the department, it is by obligation they have to give it to you, and all they write is one para about who they are and then another para about everything generic about you, right? Is that truly going to work for you, right? So what I want the three of you to answer for me is that how important did you think the recommendation were for you in this process, and what kind of a role do you think they played for you, right? Neil, we'll start with you.
I honestly think that recommendations were one of the most important aspect of my application, because like you mentioned, ma'am, like the only official document that goes in is a transcript. There is no other way to prove that you are a credible candidate apart from the recommendations. So for me, recommendations were super important. And picking who they were, the persons who were writing my recommendations were also extremely to be extremely strategic about it. So I'll give you an example. I like to think I'm good at math, and I am, but one of my scores in math wasn't good. I mean, it was certainly good, but it wasn't up to the mark that Cambridge would probably expect. And I really wanted to show them that, okay, I messed up this one time, but that's not who I am. Please not judge me on this one paper. My math is still very good. So because of that, I went to one of my game theory professors, and he wrote a recommendation where he told that game theory had a lot of math, and Neil did pretty well in game theory. I think I was in the top 5 people who scored in that subject. So that was extremely vital. That, okay, not in the exact mathematics module, but in where math is also used in a different subject, I did well. Then I also went to my mathematics professor who was close to me, and I asked her to illustrate that, okay, this was just one time, but apart from that, I really have the capability of being good at math. And she helped demonstrate that with a lot of examples. So when I was writing to professors, I made sure that I reminded them of the examples where I actually stood out from the class in XYZ ways.
Fantastic. What an amazing strategy, and implemented very well. Saloni, how about you? What do you think about the recommendation process, and how did it work for you?
I think a recommender is nothing but someone who is in a position of authority, who is basically vouching for you. So it increases your credibility from 1 to 10. Like it is a very, very important and essential part of the application process, which really helps you reach out to the admissions officers and helps to increase your value a lot. So I chose my recommenders based on hard skills and soft skills. So for my hard skills, I chose my professor who taught me 3 or 4 courses at university, and all of them were technical and all of them were quant focused. So that really helped me in leveraging my quantitative skills. And because I also performed really well in these courses, it helped me a lot. The other recommender I chose was one of my mentors and supervisors at an internship that I did in Australia. It was a 1-year-long internship in a forex trading firm, and my mentor there helped to leverage my soft skills, as in, for example, how I was as a team player, or how I contributed to the company, what was my value add, my negotiation skills, my how I came up with different plans or strategies in order to contribute to the company or grow the sales of the company or market the companies in a way that can increase its customer base. So I think these were my main 2 classifications as to how it helped me to narrow down on who my recommenders should be.
Got it. And Shreyas, how about you? I mean, for you, professional recommendation must have been key, but take us to how many academic, how many professional, what was your strategy?
Yeah, so when you're applying to MS programs, it is ideally suggested that you pick 2 academic and 1 professional. But since it had been a while since I graduated, I figured my managers would be the best spokesperson for me. And I had 2 professional and 1 academic. What I did try to do when I picked this, when I picked the 3, is to understand if they've been there, to understand, to see through all the projects I've done at work and also at my college. And I had luckily in my college, we had like a mentor kind of a role assigned to this professor, wherein we were working under her for like from the second year till I graduated. So she'd seen me work on different projects at college. She had been a part of a couple of classes that she directly taught us, and she knew me very well as a student. And it was easy for me to approach her and showcase that all of the things that I've done at college and coming to work. I think they were more than happy when I reached out to them asking for recommendations, given that this was for my master's education. And all I had to do was just given a brief summary of what all I've done, so that they're not missing out on any of the pointers while they're writing it down for me. And I think that helped them set the right draft as to how an LOR should be written. And I think Redpin, again, given with their template as to how it should be, or suggestions and feedbacks, that helped me be really confident of the LORs that could be framed from my recommenders.
Yes, I have a question out of curiosity. Were you worried that if you don't get admits, but you already told your work managers that you're applying for masters, then they'd feel like, oh, he's going to leave in a year, so you might lose out on promotion opportunities or key projects? Was that a worry?
In my case, again, so it's about the relationship you have with the company and the managers. And I think what worked for me was I was honest with them through and through. I told them I'm going to apply. I do not know where it'll lead to, but I want you to consider that I will still be here if that doesn't work out. I still choose to work in the company. And I ask that you look at my performance and not just because I'm going in. And I think they were thankfully accepting of my honesty. Yeah.
So you're saying build the bridges, don't burn them.
Exactly. Right? I think it helps them if they're on the loop. And if they want, if you think that they are your well-wishers, I think you should be honest with them.
Sure, should be honest with them. Okay, now we're going to come to the most interesting part of the conversation, for me, at least, essays. Okay, because I have actually worked on edits for all 3 of you. So I definitely know your narratives. Okay, Neil, what was the most important element of your essay? Because God knows you took some time getting down to the exact narrative because of the word limit, right? Cambridge gave you so many word limits, character limits, that we were battling, should I use this word versus this word? Remember those edit evenings? So what strategies worked for you in the writing process, right? And how were you able to truly finally pick those theories and stuff that you wanted to highlight? Take us through a little bit of the thought process, Neil.
I think you yourself mentioned the most challenging part and the important aspect of the essay was to make sure that we adhere to the character count. For everyone out here, Cambridge allowed me only 2 essays, and each essay was like approximately 190 to 200 words, which is super less when you're writing a sort of a statement of purpose or SOPs, which are usually could be 1500 words as well. Like my other essays were 1500 words. That being said, it was really a struggle on which words to use, which items to mention about myself, what should I talk about? Because the question was generic, reasons for applying. And there are so many reasons. You need to mention the academic reason, you need to mention the university's reason, you need to mention why you as well in that essay. So it was a very challenging part to choose between the things that you want to mention in the essay. And I think one good approach is to talk to admitted students as
Is
to
Neil hung for
what they
everybody
are.
else as well?
Pardon me? Hello. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. I think,
Yeah. I think her internet connection was lost.
yeah, I think she's frozen.
Okay. Ma'am? So should I continue?
Yeah, just continue.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. That being said, I think the most important thing that you should do while writing essays is to talk to admitted students as to what their essays were, what their strategies were. I remember talking to almost, I think, 20 to 25% of the entire batch of the previous year on their essays, their strategies, and what they did so that they could get into the university of their choice. And hearing from them, getting their feedback, learning about what they are doing at Cambridge allowed me to really choose the most important aspect that I should mention in the essay. So I think the best thing to do is to talk to as many admitted students as you can and understand what you should mention and what you should not mention.
You did that. You spoke to other students as well, Neil?
Yes. I think I spoke to like 20% of the entire batch.
Okay, that's a big batch, but yeah, I think that was great advice. You speak to prior admits. And how did you find these students?
So some through networking and some through LinkedIn, just like drop them cold messages. And honestly, everyone just got back to you. Like type in a nice message and everybody gets back to you. Request them for a call, and on the call, be respectful and prove to them that you're a genuine applicant and everybody is super willing to help.
That's nice. That's nice to hear. Shreyas, what about you? What were your strategies with the essay? Again, interdisciplinary was key, right? To bring in your technical and your softer side and talk about design and product innovation. So how did that work for you?
So in my case, I think I had like several initial drafts, and I think suggestions from Redpin again helped me remove the fluff and then get in a right format of the questions that I asked. So one of the things that was easy for me to understand more of the program is the program itself. Their portal, their website was so well designed that I could find any information that I needed as an applicant or a current student there. So that made me a little confident of what my takeaways from the course would be. And next is they've got student ambassadors to just speak to interested students or applicants. And I got on a call with them, and I think that was my first pit stop to making sure that I'll be applying to this program. So I did that. I also spoke to this academic guide who is heading the program, and I got a lot of insights from them as well. And thirdly, I think I just focused on just answering the essays that I had. So we had to write in 6 questions, and then they were like pretty worded questions along with a video interview of sorts. So I think I put in a lot of forethought to that, and I had a lot of revisions again thanks to that. So that was my strategy.
Got it. Saloni, when we started initially the webinar, I don't think you had started recording yet, but you did mention that the essay was the toughest part for you. We were recording at that time. You said the essay writing was very, very tough because the authentic self, right? And that begins, according to me, with a lot of self-awareness.
Correct.
Right. So it takes, as essay editors or your lead counselors, it takes us so long sometimes, first to build rapport, get applicants like you guys to trust us, right? But then also to, help you understand who you are and what your impact is.
Correct.
Sometimes I'm talking to applicants and they're like, I work with company XYZ and our team has done this revenue and this and that. And then it's about letting them say all of that, but then come to you. Now, how are you important to the team? What have you brought to the team? And then, truly being able to say that aloud without it sounding like you're marketing yourself, right? So Saloni, take us through a little bit of that initial journey of the essay, because eventually your essays were really, really strong, technically sound and also impactful, right? But we did spend a lot of time in understanding you in that space, right? So take us through a little bit of that.
So I remember when Jocelyn and I sat down, it was our first call that we had. And the first question that, like, he removed his notebook with a pen, and the first question that he asked me was, "What is your motivation?" Like, it felt like an interview. I was like, we're supposed to do this together. But the first question that he asked me was, what is your motivation? So that's how we began, really like constructing the entire story and the entire SOP. And that really helped me because it is all about self-awareness, as you said, and reflection. So that really made me go back into time and start with the first step of my journey, which was starting my venture, the initiation point of my venture. And we began from there, and we identified all the challenges that I faced. We as it is called the STAR approach. Like, I remember he explained me what the STAR approach is, and that's where we began listing down all the situations, all the tasks or challenges that I faced, and how I responded to them, or how I tackled with the challenges in a way that also helped me develop a lot of skills in the process. So this is where we began, and this is how I constructed my SOP, or this is my story, which was based on how I built my enterprise, and why I want to pursue entrepreneurship, in order to develop an entrepreneurial mindset and also advance my skill set in a way that I can come back and implement those learnings acquired in my venture and scale it to another level.
Perfect. And Saloni, did you give any standardized tests?
Yeah, I did give GRE, and I also gave my IELTS.
All right. And as a student from finance, was the quant section hard for you? Was the verbal section hard for you? What was your takeaway from the GRE?
So I was at the quant section, I felt was a little bit easier coming from finance. Verbal section is a little tricky, I feel, but because I had also given my SATs before my undergrad, it was something that I'd already done before. So all in all, I felt it is tricky, but with practice, you do get a hang of it. So practice is key.
How many attempts did you give?
I just gave one attempt.
One attempt. All right. Neil, you didn't have to take any tests for Cambridge. Was it recommended? Was it not required? What was the situation?
So it is a requirement for most students who haven't studied in the UK before. Since I'd already studied in the UK, they waived the GRE GMAT requirement for me. But everyone else, they still need to give the GRE GMAT. But I was still preparing for the GRE. I was preparing for the GMAT for my other applications. But luckily, I didn't have to give it.
Got it. Got it. And you definitely double check the minimum entry requirement before you said, okay, I can comfortably apply to this even though I have a waiver. Did you check your minimum entry requirement for the UK?
So it was a little bit of a risk because they said a 3 years undergraduate degree from the UK and you're waived. I had 2 years because I did 1 year of economics in India and then transferred to Exeter and did 2 years. And at the same time, obviously a lot of people wouldn't take that risk, but I wrote to them and they are like, send in an application. If we need it, we'll ask for it. So if they did ask for it, I would have to give it in a rush and send them the scores. So it was a little bit of risk. I don't think anybody should take this sort of a risk, but I have no idea why I took it, to be very honest.
Yeah, I feel so too. We wouldn't recommend it, but because Cambridge was a very long shot for you, right, is why we kind of said, okay, you know what, you're doing this for Cambridge, but be very, very realistic about the fact that LSE will need it and you should give it, right? Because it is LSE and all the other colleges on your list. So I think just the gamble paid off for you. But
I agree.
Hey, complaining, right? At this point. Shreyas, you come from a hardcore tech background. So was you gave the GRE, am I right?
Yeah.
So was the verbal section really, really hard?
I think it is because it's been quite a while since you've prepared for a test like this. And initially, I think I was just I started with GMAT because earlier my target programs were MBA, and then I switched. So GRE is fairly a simpler test format, but it's not that either of the tests is any simpler. And verbal was not easy. For me, it took a lot of lists of going through words and a lot of prep. There is a subscription I signed up for called Greg Matt. I think that helped me. And I think the one thing that one should be doing is to have timed tests, not just practice, right? You have to get familiar and be comfortable with the GRE format or the GMAT format. So as many as 3.5 or 4 hour tests you take, I think you'll be better off while giving
How
the
many
final.
attempts did you do? Shreyas, how many attempts?
I just given one. So for me, it was not a required, it was optional. So I think I just given one, and then I took the risk like Neil did, and then went with my first attempt.
Got it. And how many weeks of prep, Shreyas?
So I think this can be a little subjective since I was working too. It took me 2.5 months of prep to give in before I thought, okay. I only gave it in because I thought the other aspects of my application would be pushed. So I'm like, let me just get it done.
So 8 to 10 weeks. Saloni, what was your prep time?
Same, 3 months.
3 months, 12 weeks. Neil, you didn't give it, but how long were you planning to prepare for?
I mean, I think I already prepared for like 3 months when it was in January, and I think I was supposed to give it in January, end of January. Yeah, I almost booked the test.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your extracurriculars now. Of course, Saloni, we've established you had an entrepreneurship. And you had this whole fitness thing that I really don't want to talk about in a bit. But, the entrepreneurial journey that you have was a very big part of your application. So it was your work, but also your extracurricular, because you were just spending all your time with your enterprise, right? Shreyas, were there any extracurriculars that you kind of highlighted in your applications?
Yeah, I think that was thanks to my work wherein you had community service. So I just volunteered whenever there were events. And the other activities that I talked about was we do have like a family business, and then I would step in and help my dad with a couple of things. I think I wrote about that as well.
Yes, you did. In fact, Neil, you have a very strong extracurricular outside of academia. That's why I'm calling it extracurricular, because it's outside of academia, not like it's extra in your life. But we discussed about how much weightage is going to go in your resume and how much of its weightage is going to go in your essays and things. Can you take us through a little bit of that?
Okay. So I did have a lot of extracurriculars, which was not at all related to the course that I was pursuing. I have worked a little bit in policy. I have worked a lot in journalism. And to give you a little taste of it, like I have written scripts for videos, like entire scripts for journalists, and the combined views were like more than 50 million on those videos. So I have worked a lot in terms of politics and policy and journalism, but they were not related to the program that I was applying for. So I did mention these things in my resume, but it didn't seem like the right choice for me to mention it in my essay. So for me, it was like, if they really do care about it and if they want to know about it, they can have a look at it in my resume. They can follow the links and see the work that I have done. But at the same time, I don't want to waste any of my word counts on the things that wouldn't matter to somebody who is reading an application from a person who is interested in studying finance and economics.
Right. Somebody, how much of your fitness journey did we discuss? And then where all in your application did that make it?
I think the main part of my SOP was majorly my venture, because that was the reason why I chose to do entrepreneurship. So it was kind of contrary to what Neil said. It was because of my extracurriculars, I chose the course. So that had to be the main story. That had to be the main part of my story. But fitness was also another part, just to show my consistency and my go-getter attitude, where I'm where it's a part of my everyday routine. Like I start my day with an hour of gymming every day. So it was majorly to highlight my consistency and my hard work.
Yeah, and luckily you did get a prompt where you were able to highlight it outside of the SOP, right?
Right. It was a part of the Yeah.
And Shreyas, you had a video essay as well. Yes.
Yeah, so
And
it
how was
was,
that?
you just, I think so. Among the other applications I had done, I had, so in my case, what they do is, while you're filling in the application, you have to just click on a link wherein you'll be prompted a couple of questions, and then you have to just hit record, and then you're giving the interview on live. So you do get an option of retaking that for 2 more times, but I think that's the thing. I mean, that's it. After that, you just given the interview. So prior giving to CMU, I did have experience with Duke and one more university, and I think that made me comfortable in the format of the video interview.
Right. That's awesome. I'm trying to wrap up here soon so that we can take some questions at least, because we're almost at the hour. Quickly, I'm going to end this session now. Neil, what is the one insight that you can share with future applicants? Any one piece of advice from you for all our attendees today?
Spend a lot of time researching the course, the university, and understanding whether it's the right fit for you. So one of the same course that I'm doing, a similar course is offered at Oxford, but I was not at all keen on applying to Oxford. I didn't even consider it in my list of prospective universities because I thought I wasn't the right fit for Oxford, and the course of Oxford wasn't the right fit for me. So talk to as many admitted students as possible and really look into the universities, because that'll give you a sort of insight that is unparalleled to anything else that you could probably do. And it will reflect in your essays, because at the end of the day, what universities really want to know, in my opinion, is that do you actually want to study at their university? Because if you have a stellar profile, you could go to any of the university. Then why their university?
Perfect. Perfect. Shreyas, tell us one thing that you wish you knew right from the start.
I wish I wasn't overwhelmed with the process itself, and I knew how much often help, talking to your peers or people who are there at the colleges would help. So I think you just spread out your work. You should have a couple of months before, you should be a couple of months early before submitting your application. And it'll all fall into place. Even though there's like a lot of revisions and everything, you'll finish it and you'll get that admit.
Perfect. Perfect. Saloni, if there's one key insight from your journey that you could share with applicants that worked for you, that truly worked for you, what would it be?
I think being authentic and being yourself is very, very important, which is what I did. And being clear about what you really want to pursue. Like, even if you're confused at first that, you want to do this course, you want to do this course, but when you actually boil down to, or when you actually shortlist among the different options that you have to really show why you are confident that this is what is going to work for you and why you want to do this, because that is what is going to really reach out to the people on the other end who are really assessing your application, and it has to really connect. That is what is very important. Yeah,
absolutely. At the end of the day, it is a human process. So the more authentic you are, the higher your chances of being able to connect with the other human on the other side, right? This is the one advice that I have for everybody who's attending today and considering a 23 or a 24 intake. Be on time. Don't rush. Because what being on time will do is, one, it'll take away the sense of overwhelm. Two, it will allow you to multitask, even if you're not somebody who's good at it. It'll give you the bandwidth to plan your weekdays and your weekends in a way, whether you have full-time work ex or you're doing some research project or you're currently at university, you'll get the bandwidth to be able to allocate some tasks for the weekday and some tasks for the weekend, which could be standardized testing, which takes about 3 months, and your essays and getting in touch with your recommenders, doing research, extracurriculars, all of that. So I think the one piece of advice that I would leave you with is be on time, right? And then therefore safeguard your timeline. I'm going to get into the Q&A. We don't have a lot of time for Q&A, to be honest. So I'm going to quickly just do like probably one question per panel. Okay, so somebody asked something out of all the three of you. So let's start with this question. In each of your opinions, which was the most instrumental element of your application to get you your admits? Was it the high score or the leadership? Shreyas, let's quickly go with a quick answer from you on that. What was your USP? What worked?
I think it was my experience and the projects I've done.
The project. Saloni, for you, what do you think that worked for you?
I think, as you said, being on time, you have to really apply in advance, because as the seats fill, the lesser the chances that you have. So being on time, and also the essays and the recommendation letters.
Got it. Neil, how about you?
I think showcasing a genuine interest in attending the university was the most important thing to me, because not a lot of people know here, but I applied to Cambridge once when I was doing my final year of undergrad, and then I got rejected. And I'm like, never mind, I'm going to take a gap year. I'm going to apply again. And I applied again. And obviously, I improved my essays, I improved my application, but I showed them that I'm genuinely interested in attending Cambridge. And I think that sets me apart from all of the applicants who have the same profile as me. Like, I am interested, they are not.
Got it. Perfect. So this question, I'm going to give it to, again, the three of you actually. Did any of you interact with admission officers? Did you attend webinars? Did you get in touch with admission officers or faculty members at any of the universities? Saloni?
Not before my application, but once I got the admit, I did connect with a lot of admission officers and program managers at USC. But that was
Got it. Shreyas, how about you?
Yeah, I spoke to my academic admission. Sorry, Saloni had something?
No, continue. That's fine.
Okay, so I'd spoken to her prior my application. I think that's when I got more information to even put in the right information into my application assets. So I think it's beneficial if you talk to them before as well.
To the admission officers, reach out, ask questions is what you're saying, right? Shreyas?
Yes, understand the program.
Got it. Neil, you already said that it's very important to understand your program and do research. Did you reach out to the admission officers at Cambridge or in a webinar?
I reached out to the admission officer, but just for general questions. But I did reach out to a lot of admitted students, and I think that's something that sets you apart.
Got it. And you already said that, do it because they're nice enough and they know that you're a genuine applicant. They will reach out to you and help you out. And I think that's great advice. So everybody who's attending today, please have a LinkedIn account and then find some alumni or ambassadors on campus. In fact, some universities have that ambassador section. And you can reach out to student ambassadors and and they can answer questions for you. All right. There is one question for me, which is about somebody's very specific profile. So I've asked you to email me separately. Someone asking about the application for fall 2023. Okay, Shreyas, you're typing an answer for that. So go ahead and do that. And then also there is this one question. There are a lot of questions about transitioning from one education system to another, but I think that's pretty much only applicable to Saloni, right? Because you're moving from finance to entrepreneurship. Saloni did mention that she did this whole move because she has an enterprise. And then when she had the hard skills in finance already, she felt like an MS finance or quant finance was too technical and too niche, which she would not really be able to apply to scale her business. Am I right, Saloni? So I think that became her key to move from finance into entrepreneurship. All right, somebody does have a question about application in international business, but can I please recommend that you email us separately, because we have in fact come to the end of the session and I do want to not take any more time of our panelists who've been already very generous with their time. They are very willing for any one of you to connect with them over LinkedIn. If you have a question for them, much like they have reached out to a few other applicants, you can in fact reach out to them on LinkedIn. Each one of them is on LinkedIn. I know that because I ensure that every applicant who works in the Red Pen has a very strong LinkedIn presence. So please go ahead and reach out to them on LinkedIn and they will definitely answer your questions. Shreyas, Saloni, Neil, thank you so much for sharing your journeys with us. I think my key takeaway, honestly, from this has been the authentic self and the fact that you have to start early. Like Shreyas said, don't segregate yourself of overwhelm and also do solid research, like Neil said. Right? In fact, for the three key takeaways that I have from this session. And I'm going to wish each one of you all the very best for what's coming up for you. Neil, for your visa process, Saloni, for your packing and shopping before you leave, Shreyas, same for you. Please go enjoy your time on campus. Please build a very strong network of like-minded, ambitious, driven young professionals. And please ensure that you safeguard your GPA. I cannot emphasize that enough. All right. Neil, thank you so much. Saloni, I really appreciate you taking out the time.
I would also like to take a minute to say thank you to you and the entire Red Pen team. Without you guys, it really wouldn't have been possible. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Saloni. I truly appreciate that. Shreyas, thank you for your thumbs up. It was an absolute pleasure. The whole team is going to agree with me on that. Neil, working on those words, I remember spending 15 minutes with you on one call. So should we use this word and will that bridge this sentence to that sentence? And Saloni, just conversations with your family. It's been amazing. I mean, sometimes I was like, chai pe bhi bula lo. Let's just sit and have chai and discuss our future goals. So there was so much investment of time and energy which we've had with each other that it's been brilliant, right? And Shreyas, we did pair you with a counselor who would understand your profile, who came from a really solid corporate background. So you guys were literally being able to, as friends, work on your application. So I think for me, that was the joy that each one of you got for us to the application process, that we were able to build bridges and relationships with the three of you beyond just the work that we did with you. So thank you again for that. Thank you so much. And I will definitely see you guys soon. I'm sure you're connected on LinkedIn, and definitely do stay in touch.
Yes.
Thank you, panelists today. Thank you, attendees, for attending our session today. I know some questions did go unanswered, but please feel free to reach out to us with your question and we'll definitely answer them. I just do not want the panelists to go spend any more of their precious time answering questions, but they will do it on LinkedIn. That I